Hello. Let's test.
How come you're not here holding this place down, Scott? Oh, I guess we're all muted yet.
You're muted.
Are we muted? I think
I think we are. I think we are, and I think we should stay that way with me.
Do you have this, you have the agenda printed out so that I can read that when it comes to.
Oh,
this
yeah.
part, and if you
Yeah,
could say-
of course. Yeah. We'll borrow on it together.
Are we on the air yet? Are we, is it, we can go, okay. 4 o'clock, I'm calling the Historic Landmark Commission together. This is the 28th day of August. And the first thing I'd like to do is call upon our clerk over here to take a roll call of people that are in attendance and on the wall. I'm glad to meet people both places. So will you please?
Board Member McNary,
Here.
Board Member Ercole.
Here.
Okay. Board Member Recruiterin,
Here.
Board Member Gleason,
Here.
Board Member Agi.
Here.
Board Member Reynolds.
Here.
Okay, and Counselor Randall.
Present.
Okay, now we'll start with the pledge. And you, young man, say here, or if you will lead us in the pledge, I'll try to get up. That'll be my contribution. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Forrest. Now, to approve the agenda of this meeting tonight, is there anyone that wants to add, subtract, or correct on the printed agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as it is.
I second it.
Yeah, you gotta get,
There you go. I did it.
you don't wanna slip on us here.
Right on top of that.
No further discussion, all in favor, please raise your hand. And our office girl, our new girl here today, or substitute, will be able to tell who does what. All in favor, raise your hand, please. All opposed? So the agenda has been approved. Now, we're into a kind of no man's land for me. Sometime back, we had a motion that we withhold approval of the minutes for the February 28th, 2024. And so we're going to start with approving that set of minutes. And I'm quite sure that I was absent. No, I was not absent. I was absent on the next. Forgive me. So anyhow, have you had a chance to look over the minutes from the February 28th, 2024? And if you have no corrections, I will entertain a motion that we approve as written.
I'll make a motion to approve the council minutes for February 28th, 2024.
I second it.
Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, all in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? The minutes have been approved for February the 28th. Now I'll flip my little book over. I think I will. Oh yeah, I gotta get a big flip. So we're going back to, maybe I didn't find those. Where are they? I don't know if I got a copy of the June.
Was there a quorum?
So that'll be page 13 of the packet.
Oh, give me a minute. I got the application. Well, if somebody got a copy of them, I'll gladly substitute theirs. I didn't correlate my agenda with my paper clips. And I don't see them. This is the application.
Is it right there?
Yeah,
That's it.
that's the one. Well, I said it was here too that day, so it's okay. I'm sorry, fine. All right, now we're gonna try to approve the minutes for June the 26th, 2024. Is anyone got any objections to the minutes as they are written?
I don't have an objection, but can someone clarify,
Correction?
why didn't we approve the February 28 minutes at this meeting? We postponed it, and I don't recall exactly why.
You
we
was
didn't.
the guy that made the,
I know.
Yeah.
That's
You
why I
made
need
it-
clarification.
you
I think
made
as we
that
didn't have a
motion and I honored it because you said there was not enough members present at June that were present also in February.
That makes sense. That
And I don't know if
Well.
we added to it or not, but we're gonna get it approved. We got it approved, no. So now we're gonna take the 26th on.
Well, I approve the minutes of June 26, 2024 as they stand. I'll make a motion for that.
I second the motion.
Hey. Anyone else have anything to say? If we're not, we'll entertain a motion. We'll vote and I'll say, raise your right hand. Anyone opposed? Okay, the minutes have been approved for the 20. Hand that back, Carl. He can keep better track of us than I can. So now I'm back to my agenda. We approved it, so it's gotta be right. This is the public comment portion of our meeting. Anyone that would like to speak on any subject that is not on our agenda may speak, and in case you get too long-winded, we'll probably turn you off after 5 minutes. But other than that, we'd like to hear from anyone that has any comments to make about the commission, the way we work, the things that we're missing, or the things that we should be highlighting. Hearing none, we'll go right to the public hearing part of our meeting, and I think I got my paper clips in the right place there. So my agenda starts out with the staff report for Landmark Commission meeting.
Do I have to read the rules?
We gotta read rules. We gotta read rules. Julie is gonna grace us with the rules for a public hearing for the Landmark Commission. So, I hope you go.
Now is the time specified for Historic Landmarks Commission to conduct a public hearing. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider the following matter. HLC application 216-24, Claudia Leash, 200 East 2nd Street. Approval for interior residential improvements to create 4 apartments and exterior improvements to restore the historic building facade and storefront. The substantive criteria upon which the Historic Landmarks Commission will base its decision in this matter are contained in the city's comprehensive plan and land use and development ordinances. A public hearing is required by law and certain rules apply. First and foremost, you must be recognized by the chair in order to speak and present testimony. When recognized by the chair, please proceed to the microphone and state your name and mailing address for the record. The hearing is required by law to be tape recorded. Generally, the public hearing procedure is as follows. A, prior to the public hearing, a determination will be made of the qualifications of the commission members and allow for challenges from the audience. 1, Chair McNary will open the public hearing with a staff report. The purpose of the staff report at this point is to further identify the applicable criteria of the case being considered and to provide background information about the case. After the staff report, we will hear testimony from the proponents, those persons in favor of the application. Next, there will be testimony from the opponents, those not in favor of the application. Next, there will be testimony from anyone else who wishes to offer testimony or ask questions. Then, to honor the right of rebuttal, we will again hear from those in favor of the application. To expedite the hearing, the commission members may ask questions of persons as they testify. When this process has been concluded, we will close the public testimony period portion of the hearing. During the hearing, some important standards apply. First of all, those who testify must hold their testimony to the decision criteria, as in all land use hearings. There are a complete set of rules, procedures, and criteria we must follow. Second, failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the commission members and the parties an opportunity to respond to that issue precludes an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Third, the failure of an applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with details specific enough to allow the city to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Fourth, prior to the conclusion of the public hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence, arguments, or testimony regarding the application. If such a request is made, the law states the commission must grant the request by either continuing the hearing to a time and date at least 7 days from the date of the initial hearing, or the record must be kept open for a period of at least 7 days. These are the rules. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Julie. I couldn't have done that even closely the same. Now, we brushed it real quickly. Is there anyone of the audience that would like to check the qualifications of any commissioner, period? We gotta have that Al Potter contact. And if any one of them thought of as having in it, well, there'd be a conflict of interest and bias with the applicant. Do I hear anyone that's objecting to the qualifications of our commission? Hearing none, I'll go to the next one. I've got that one. Now, the public hearing can be open. And we're ready for the staff. Josh, you're up. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Joshua Chandler, Community Development Department. Let me share my screen here really quick. I'm going to go through a brief presentation for you. Walk us through this application. Hopefully everybody viewing at home can see the screen here. So the agenda item discussing today is HLC application number 216-24. The applicant is Claudia Leash. The site address is 200 East 2nd Street, not too far away from here. I think if you walk in the other room, you can probably see it. Historic status is a primary resource in our inventory. It is in the Dalles Commercial Historic District. The existing use is Sigmund's Flowers and Gifts and has been there for quite a long time. The request here, although the request is for the approval for the interior residential improvements to create 4 apartments and exterior improvements to restore the historic building facade and storefront, what we are discussing is the second part of that, the exterior improvements. The interior work really is being provided for the commission's reference here. It is also, this project's being reviewed with the Community Development Department through various permits, a building permit process that's going to go and establish these 4 residential units up top. So we're not discussing that, but we did want to provide that to tell you that this is a really big overhaul of this building. It's a pretty exciting project. I think the applicants will be able to speak to it, but there is a grant with Oregon Main Street associated with this work. So there's a lot going into this, and it's really exciting to see. So the vicinity map, just for reference here, it's the red box here, right across the street, really, from City Hall here. This is the Sigmund's Flowers building, the Oaks Hotel. This was built circa about 1890s. It's an Italianate style. It is the former home of multiple businesses, but a few to mention here. The Bennington Cigar Store, Optimo Cigar Shop, the Harry Taylor Saloon, the Harry Jones Confectionery and Restaurant. The Oaks Hotel was upstairs. It has been Sigmund's Flowers since, I'd have to check my notes again, since the 50s. And before that, it was actually it was another flower shop. So it is since the 40s. So it's really been around for quite a long period of time. Showing you the building elevations. These are provided in your packet. I don't expect you to read the fine print there, but this is kind of it's a really cool way to show what's being done. They overlaid really the historic photo, and then they added the different elements to point out the different aspects of the project. And included in those notes, included in your staff report, some of the things included, I'll read off a list of items that will be addressed with this project. So there's going to be the exterior will require significant work to be professional repair to some areas that had some water damage. There is repointing and restoring of the brick facade, reestablishing the entrance to the second floor on Court Street. We'll get into that in a little bit. Removing brick and wall passage, drywall flooring, walls and ceilings going into the stairway and over the ramp hallway, framing in the original Oaks Hotel entry and restoring the original hotel entrance door, and many others that will, like I mentioned, we'll get into this. But I think two that really we'll touch on here in a little bit are the reestablishing the transom windows that were historically installed there. You can see those right above the door. Another modification here on the front is a proposal for an awning. And then when you get to this other side, which is the Court Street side, this is another really cool way to look at it. You see on the left-hand side is the historic or the existing photo of it. On the right-hand side showing you what is being proposed. And in the bottom right-hand corner of the building, they're reestablishing the Court Street entrance. I say reestablishing because it is not, it's not the location of a brand new door. It is reestablishing a door that was once there. And if you actually go by and look at the brick itself, you'll see that area between the two pilasters there, that area is actually a different type of brick. It's all painted the same, but you can see that there is actually some differences to that. Have some other photos of inside the building so we can see, take a look at that, but there is evidence that it was in fact a doorway at one point. That doorway accessed the units upstairs. So now to get to the upstairs, it all has to be accessed through the first floor. But as I mentioned, they'll be adding 4 residential units upstairs for rent. So this will give the opportunity for those tenants to move about the building, get in and out of the building without going through the business on the first floor. So some notable modifications to take a look at. I wanted to show the 2 photos side by side, the existing picture on the left and the proposal on the right-hand side. The area that's squared off here, they would be reestablishing this transom window system, which is a really distinct architectural feature in some of our buildings downtown. And it'll let a lot more light into the building, and it really just adds, kind of brings back the character of what this was originally designed to look like. Another modification that we'll address here in a little bit is also in a square there, and this is proposing to put an awning over the front between the transom and the existing storefront glass and door system. And then on the Court Street side, two modifications here. One of them on the left-hand side, they're removing this air conditioning unit. There will be an internal system, whether it be mini splits or another system on the inside, but that will go away. I mentioned the other square on the right-hand side, they will be reestablishing the other entry. So here you can see, it'll open up the clear story window that's there on the left-hand side. as well as the right-hand side, you'll have this new entrance, new-ish entrance, you could say. So this was just here to provide, I requested this information from the applicant just to show us that this was in fact, you can see there, if you look really closely, that is actually the window on the right-hand side. That is the window, the original window opening that was blocked in some years ago. So they were basically just taking this area, reestablishing it to connect to the upstairs. So some commission discussion, as you'll see in the staff report, the discussion here regarding the storefront and the transom window system. The applicant is requesting approval to have some options on what exactly to do with this front system. One is to repair the system with new glass. I think that's preferred, trying to keep it as it currently is. The second option would be to replace this system with a new wood framed window system, glass and framing. This would include the storefront and the transom. And then the other would be replacing the glass system with a new bronze anodized aluminum storefront system, which is shown on the elevation drawings. So one thing to keep in mind here is when they remove the blocks that cover the transom, it's unclear what the condition may be of the framing behind it. So there's a good chance that transom system would need to be replaced. So the applicant is really following my presentation. This would be the discussion for the commission today on providing an option for the applicant here moving forward. There's going to be a lot of exploratory work here to determine the condition of the framing. And I think the applicant can speak to that here in a little bit. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of exploratory just to see what conditions are currently there and the best process to move forward. And then this is, so what we provided here in our staff report here is when we talk about the storefront and transom window system, the Dalles Municipal Code mentions that wood windows are are recommended. So wanted to open up this conversation because that is something that, at least on the land use side of things, when you're dealing with planning, we deal with requirements, not so much recommendations. So recommendations in the past, whenever there's a recommendation, we like to open that up to the HLC to have that conversation. So the condition of approval here, it's a bit lengthy and it's really going to take shape after our discussion, because what it reads as following a complete assessment of the existing conditions of the storefront and transom glass system on this northern face, if replacement of the system is needed, the applicant may, or the applicant shall, replace the system with new wood framed windows and/or replace the system with the bronze anodized. So the conversation here after presentation is to determine whether or not they have that flexibility and which way the commission would like to go on the requirements for this replacement. And following the meeting, I'll be able to modify this resolution on the conversation, and then it would need to be approved by the chair before the project moved forward. Signed by the chair, excuse me. So the other discussion is this modification to put in an awning, and they're requesting the approval to have the option to either install a metal awning, which is shown on the elevation drawing, or install a canvas cloth awning. So there's also some flexibility in the municipal code regarding those. No information was really provided on whether or not there was an awning there. At least pictures weren't provided. So it's really, it is a newish modification here. So just really the applicant is looking for some flexibility here to really determine at the end as the project's going on, what might look the best. So giving them the flexibility that, once again, the applicant may or the applicant shall install the metal awning is shown on the elevation drawing. This is the metal awning, very similar to what's on the Lemke building as well as the Commodore building. So it's, my opinion, looks pretty good. It's held on by metal rods that kind of hold it up at a 45-degree angle, or installing a canvas cloth awning. once the restoration work is completed and the paint colors are chosen. So these are really the kind of well, you get into, council alternatives, excuse me. So staff's recommendation, and I'll touch on some other things first, before I get to this. In looking at this building has gone through some modifications, but not a whole lot of modifications. And I think the modifications that have been made in years past, you could say that the applicant is trying to right the wrong. They're trying to bring back the transom windows, for instance. They're trying to bring back this doorway that was there. They actually have that doorway stored in the building. So there is, it's not like they're adding a brand new a brand new door or anything. They're actually bringing back the doorway that was taken out at one point. I've walked through the building. It's really a step back in time upstairs, and they're just trying to bring this back to, being very thoughtful in the project to try to bring back as much as possible, to fix as much as possible. Really, their intent here, they know the HLC process. They know that the preference here is preservation is always, you always go for preservation over replacement. So they are going to do everything that they can to restore this building, but we do understand that after 130 plus years, there has been some deterioration of things that will need to be replaced. So council's recommendation here, staff's recommendation, my apologies, is move to adopt HLC resolution number 202-24, which is a resolution approving this application based upon the findings of fact and conclusions of law set forth in the staff report. However, the change to this that you may not see on other recommendations is with the modified conditions of approval following commission's discussion. So as I mentioned, I prepared some conditions that are flexible for the HLC to discuss today, and I would be able to make those modifications to that depending on this conversation. So this recommendation here would be in line with whatever changes are made. And with that, I am more than happy to answer any questions. And I can continue to share the screen, or we can close it up and turn it back on a little bit, whichever you prefer.
I guess I'll start off. Do you know if the current windows that are there, are they wood framed?
Current windows on the downstairs floor, believe these are, I think the applicant's gonna have to speak to it, but I believe it's an old aluminum window system. Yes, the old silver looking aluminum system that came about probably in the 50s, something along those lines. But those are the storefront windows. The other windows are wood framed windows. And the goal there is to, fix and repair all of the wood windows that are upstairs.
Thank you.
Yep.
My question to you is the fact that you are reading the current triple recommendations where we aren't. And triple has never been, to my last experience, too fond of aluminum frames. And they've always rejected them, usually when they were applied for. And has there been a change of heart with triple that aluminum frames are within the historic landmark?
I can't speak to that. I can't speak to working on an HLC application about 5 years ago, and the HLC approved an aluminum
Does
window
this
system.
application go to triple sooner or later?
Does this application? No, it is, we are a certified local government, so we would make that decision.
Well, you understand my question then. Normally we have, as a commission, have been very reluctant to approve aluminum, door frames, window frames, or any of that nature. And I myself have a hard time distinguishing these, but I'm not a street walker. I'm a driving down the street, and I'm more concerned about somebody other than the window frame. So historically, it is not something with me. The only thing it is with me is are we according to the state rules and regulations.
Yeah, so I would go off of what since we are a certified local government, like I mentioned, our standards say that wood windows are recommended. And I would just kind of leave it at that. I know that I haven't processed a lot of historic landmarks applications, but the one that I had worked on a few years back, it was approved by the commission to put in a new aluminum storefront system in a building downtown. So that's what I'm going off of. But I do want to highlight the fact that the applicant is really just looking for the option. They're also looking at the option of, and I've talked with the applicant about it, of trying to just keep the windows as they are if they can, but do want to be mindful of cost and feasibility as well with this whole process. Yeah.
I can speak to Michael Leach, 306 Court Street.
Is this the time for you? I'm sorry, Mike, but
Your question.
okay, well, that's identify yourself and go on the record. And you can go ahead and talk at this time.
Michael Leach, 306 Court Street. Yeah, so the metal iodized windows was actually in our second application that went through the state preservation SHPO. And so they have actually signed off, and that's part of that application. So to Josh's point, it's in our application with the state as well.
Well, I didn't want to set a new rule that they had changed on the state level to keep up with us. Carl,
So I'm just curious, Josh, I mean, we have a lot of new materials since 130 some years ago. And, some will last a lot longer probably than the old wood frame. Are there regulations about what the looks of them? And I mean, we certainly wanted to look like the wood that was there originally, even if it's some new modification.
Yeah, the goal is to always, when you're using new material, the goal is to always match original materials that were used, and I think we see around the Dalles, we have a lot of very old buildings downtown. Before the Dalles was a historic district, a lot of modifications were made to these historic buildings, and now trying to bring them back is costly, and there are new materials that need to be used. I mean, if you look downtown and we see all of the silver looking metal aluminum frames, those were not original. So now reverting back, as Michael mentioned, it's currently, I bet at one point it was wood framed, but the system that's currently there is a very old metal storefront system. So they are trying to bring it back to the best they can to the original design. But that is the thing to think about, is a lot of our storefronts downtown, the metal storefronts are not historic storefronts.
Josh, is there a possibility with the metal ones that are existing, and I can see how you wouldn't want to incur that huge cost to change all those. Is there any way of frame, if they choose to go with the wood or we approve the wood, is there any way to frame out those just in the finish work to look the same and not actually change the windows and have the metal under it? Or has that ever been done?
Are you talking about like maybe applying a wood framing over the metal structure that's there?
Yeah, just to make it uniform. If
I mean,
that stands out as something different that looks, I'm just,
yeah, I mean, I'm
curious.
Yeah, I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could frame the old metal,
If they went
system
with
that's
that
there.
bronze option, is there any way of like painting that to, I mean, I imagine they're gonna want it to all look uniform. So that would be part of the plan, is that?
Yeah. I mean, I can speak to, painting bronze anodized systems. It can be done. It's paint doesn't take very well, or it doesn't last long to
Not-
paint
it might-
bronze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good idea.
I don't know. It's just curious. I was just
Yeah.
of a way of saving some money instead of throwing everything out and, maybe just make it blend.
Yeah, and I think overall, and Michael can speak to this. I think overall, as I mentioned earlier, I want to emphasize that as much as I can with this project, the goal is restoration up and down with this project. But as they get into it, they're going to find out, and they've already found out that there's a lot of material that's deteriorated. So I don't know the current condition of the storefront that is there, but I think that is why this is being proposed. When they open it up, when they get into it, they want the flexibility, they want that option once they actually open it up and see what they have to work with.
Would that be a time to come back to the commission and show what is underneath?
Well, I can't speak too much for Michael. I know that the project is intending on going through in exterior work in October. But also I think on a practical side of things, I would fear that once they rip into the opening, you would have a big opening, and then you would have to worry about needing to, weatherproof it, security, all those things. If they get into the system and find out that it's failed to a point that there's no turning back.
It's unknown whether there's any glass in it still.
Oh, as far as the transom?
We don't believe there's any glass in the transoms.
Yeah, and since they've been boarded up for so long, I think the condition, it's unclear what the condition really is after it's been boarded up. And I imagine there was, the holes were filled with, I mean, we saw in the other picture for the transom that is above the Court Street entrance. We see that entrance was bricked up, brick laid into the original brick opening. So who knows what the condition of those transom frames are going to be.
Think we can change our conditions of approval to have it so the bottom floor where the transitions or transoms are going to come in, where it could be all aluminum since that's already there. And the upper floors, since I believe you said it was wood on the upper floors, we can put it in that requirement that the second floor be wood framed. Just thought.
What were the options? It was wood and the
Replace the
bronze.
frames, the bronzed aluminum and then wood.
aluminum, yeah. So
If I have one suggestion, I would open up the opportunity for the applicant to speak on the project if they can have an opportunity for that. And I think there are architects online here. It just a suggestion, I think maybe before you deliberate on the conditions.
Don't forget it. The computer Eric's up there.
So getting back to my concern, the bronze, is that close enough to a wood to look like the wood that was originally there
The bronze
without being painted?
Yeah,
over?
bronze is like it's pretty close to like a black.
Mhm.
It's not as dark as a black, but it's kind of a typical. It's a typical modern storefront system. It's used in most commercial applications these days. So I think probably wouldn't match it'd be difficult to make it match a wood.
Mhm.
The other buildings downtown that you cited as having aluminum framed windows, are they of the same era, the same time frame, or are they more modern?
I'd have to think. I think there is the building. I'm blanking on the name, but it's call it the Craig Building, right? I think it's the Craig Building. They have a metal storefront system that is it's I don't know the age of that building, but that old storefront system was definitely installed in the 50s or 60s.
I see in here that vinyl is still prohibited.
Yeah.
I have a hard time just grasping that we've made that radical change from replacing a wood with aluminum, and even though it's bronze and all that sort of stuff, it's still aluminum. I see it that's a quite a radical change. I know if Eric was here, he would be right up there on a ceiling someplace.
He's right there on the wall.
Oh,
Yeah, let's go.
I didn't see you, Eric. If you got comments, I didn't notice you. That's why I said the wall bothers me. Eric, you must have a comment at this point.
I do maybe have some comments, but I thought maybe I would hold them till after we hear the architect and the applicant. You know, I think it's wood is definitely preferred, but sometimes it's not, I guess, doable these days, but especially for the large storefront windows. But you know, I guess we should hear from them.
Thank you, Eric. I'm lost at a man who is on my left. Now he's gonna hold his hand in front of the camera.
That's the architect,
That's who?
the architect.
Okay. Don't know.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, I had my hand raised, but I don't know if anybody saw that. Um, so in my past and ongoing experience with historic districts, including the Dalles, my preference is, let me go back. Let me put it this way. Storefronts traditionally, even 130 years ago, have been designed to be robust systems because they are subject to a lot of traffic and damage. And so even storefronts built 130 years ago, you might see them done in wrought iron and steel, similar to what you see at the ironworks down the street. That was why we decided to go with a more robust system than wood. Also, I thought that I didn't know that wood was a recommendation for Second Street. That kind of surprised me, but typically following the guidelines from the National Historic Preservation, we would use a modern material. We're not supposed to take a modern material and make it look like an old-fashioned look. We're not supposed to do that. Does any of that make sense?
yes. Has the commission got anything further to ask of our staff?
No.
All right, then we will move on from the staff report over to the proponents. And they're gonna explain to us, Claudia and someone else gonna explain to us how wonderful this is gonna be and how financially responsible it's going to be. Or rather, it's gonna be financially impossible. So if you would please come to the mic, or are you you're gonna talk? He's gonna be the talk man, good. You've identified yourself, so tell us what we are going to do here and make it all beautiful.
So it is financially possible, however, extremely expensive. We believe that total project is going to be somewhere in the $780,000 to $800,000 range in regards to when all said and done. So we are looking at, all of the different systems, like whether it's windows or the treatments that we're doing even on the interior. But our goal is to really keep it historically appropriate for what's currently there and what previously was there. And the metal system, like Byron was explaining, is kind of what is normal now, and it was also used on the Lentke building. And Byron actually was part of the presentations, I believe, that took place or did the design work when that building came to the Landmarks for its renovation 5-6 years ago, at least at this point in time. But our goal is to keep all of those all the wood windows and rebuild the ones upstairs. We know that there's tremendous deterioration, so we have a feeling that a lot of the frames will all have to be rebuilt. But our goal is to make them appropriate and obviously keep wood frame windows up there as well.
Anything the commission would like to ask the proponent?
There was something about flashing that's going to go on top of a cornice or something like that.
So there's what's now there's actually tin metal that's across all of the top cornices. And so we are going to be covering that and having a metalworks company that does historic buildings either replace or go over those, and they have to, it's pretty expensive because the whole cornice is one piece of metal. And so it's going to take a fair amount of time and obviously investment in regards to doing those. We're also rebuilding the 9 chimneys that are there's only one that's existing. And so DNR masonry restoration will be basically bringing in brick that's very old and building out all of those chimneys that come off of each of the stacks that were for the 9 rooms that were upstairs. So I think it's going to be very cool when it's done and very historically appropriate for being back in the 1890s.
Is that just on the roof, or does the chimney extend down to a fireplace?
Well, there actually is, I think that there probably was small fireplaces in each of the rooms. But the chimney will extend above the roof about 2.5 feet, and they'll be all visible.
I'm just curious because we're just on the outside, but
Yeah.
I'm very curious what you're
But
doing.
we're not putting those wood burning ovens and stoves back into each of the rooms.
There'll only be 4 rooms.
And there'll only be 4. Yeah. So we're changing the hallway and the whole, it's extensive changes because obviously, if you're going to spend a fair amount of money to do a restoration like that, what's your return on investment, and may not be in my lifetime, but it'll pay for itself eventually.
I had a question about the doors on the west side. What are those going to be made out of? Those going to be wooden doors?
Be wood doors. Yeah. The one that's stored is wood. Claudia seems to think that it's hidden either in the basement or upstairs. And I've seen it moved once or twice. So I do know that it's somewhere in the building, but they're wood, and whatever doors, except for the front door, the west side doors would all be wood.
Thank you.
Eric, have you got questions you would like to ask the proponent?
Yeah, maybe. I seem to think that, since that lower storefront has already been replaced with aluminum at some point in the past, typically the Landmarks Commission has been less concerned with, we want things to go back to wood if it's practical, but if it's not practical or feasible, then since it's already been replaced and we wouldn't be losing original materials, then replacing aluminum with aluminum, I think is okay. The transom windows, it'd be cool if we could just, if they're in good enough shape to plop glass back into them, but they'll probably need some kind of repairs at least. But it seems like the lower part of the storefront aluminum would be just fine. Maybe the upper part of the transom windows, if the wood is restorable, then to restore that. And then, maybe secondarily, then if it's not restorable, we'd prefer wood. But then if that's cost prohibitive, then we'd allow aluminum, kind of. Something like that is what I'm thinking of. But I think it's great that these guys are taking on this project. It's a beautiful building, and it'll be nice to see it coming back in a restored state, closer to its original condition than it is now. So great.
You should ask for comment from Scott. He's up there too.
Oh, well, Scott is listener. Sorry, if you have something you want to say, Scott, you go ahead and say it. You can ask all the questions you want today.
Thanks, Bob. I don't have any comments at this point.
Okay. I couldn't. What, he didn't have anything?
No, he's good.
Is Scott driving?
No, he's parked.
Good. I'm worried about his safety.
If there's no further questions at this point from the opponent, is anyone here want to speak against this project as it has been presented? Hearing none, that puts you back up to tell us how wonderful it is again, and then we're gonna have to go back to staff and get ready to go into deliberations.
We haven't talked about the awning yet.
Ooh,
The awning, whether it should be metal, fabric,
Oh.
or give them the option.
okay. Where are we?
We're right here. We're ready.
I know where's,
I think they preferred the metals. Was that your first choice, the metal awning?
oh, we haven't
Applicant,
addressed that.
I think the applicant was really looking for an option on it. The example that was provided was, as mentioned, the Lemke building, and not only Michael brought up that the Lemke building has an aluminum storefront glass system.
Is there a
and-
picture of Lemke and is that the
Um,
insurance agent? I'm trying to think of the building.
Earl, how old's the building?
It's the.
I think the Lemke
Okay.
building's from around, it's a little newer than this one. It's the one that Hugh Hillis owns that,
Okay.
it's on Second Street, just around the corner, just past, west of the workshop.
So I can share the screen if it helps. This is relatively new. I think it was captured 2023. So this kind of gives you an
I
idea.
can't visualize that we can have a metal awning at that location on an historic building, but I'm here to learn.
Yeah, so this is similar in many ways, I think is what the applicants are chatting about. This is a black or a bronze aluminum anodized storefront system in the transom, as well as the lower glass and door system. But then that is a similar metal awning that would be proposed.
Is it flat?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it all the same material or is it glass? Is it framed in the, I'm just wondering what
It's welded and powder coated.
it's all that metal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then held on the 45-degree angle, held on with those metal rods holding it up against the building.
What's the purpose? Does the sun come in the window or is it for rain shelter?
It would be for rain shelter, and we've seen them on a number of buildings, and I thought that we had read somewhere that was kind of one of the requirements.
Yeah, can I cut in here?
Right ahead.
Okay, hey Joshua, you're doing a great job. I haven't worked with you before, but you're doing a great job. I thought that there was a downtown requirement on Second Street that storefronts that get enhanced are supposed to have an awning or a canopy to protect people from the rain.
Save you some money not to do it.
That might be a good idea.
Well, the standard is awnings provide a ceiling for pedestrian traffic, which helps to give a sense of enclosure to the street and protection from the elements. I'm not necessarily reading that this is a requirement, but there's
Okay.
flexibility in here to allow it.
So maybe the code has changed in the last few years, because the old code called for awnings similar to the Commodore building.
How long ago? I doubt this code has changed in recent years, but if you're speaking a long time ago, I can be more than happy to look into it. Are you speaking specifically to the historic standards section?
Yes, I thought, and I can't find my copy of it right now because I'm in a phone booth at work, and I was trying to find my cop because we used to have a historic districts design guidelines.
And we're not, it doesn't, we don't have to have an awning. So I guess we were looking at, we've gone through all of the design work to kind of keep with what we believe was the guidelines in regards to having an awning. So it may get to a point where financially that could potentially be something that we leave off because of extraordinary cost. If it gets into the above $20,000 to $30,000 to do just that awning, that may be something that we would want the flexibility to do maybe at a future date, but we may hold off if it ends up being extremely more expensive than we anticipated.
The building originally have an awning of some type?
We haven't found any. Well, there was
I think it had a cloth awning that was kind of like a tent.
there was some really early drawings that we can't tell if it was photograph or whatever, but there was a time when it basically, when the sidewalks or wood or dirt, one going way back, that it looked like it was an awning similar to what was on the Commodore. That was one of the very first photos that we have of the building. I'm not sure if that's just a more or less of a drawing or a depiction of the building.
The Dalles has more of a wind issue than protection from the rain. We don't get a lot of rain, but the wind could be a factor with the canvas. So.
Yeah, so the code does mention flat horizontal metal canopies suspended by chains or rods, if original, should be used as they provide cover for pedestrians and shade. So it speaks to it is not prohibited to put this on. When we talk about, other than metal, you're looking at definitely what is prohibited are those old barrel style awnings, the plastic awnings that we saw years and years ago. So that is not something that's being proposed, but I think the applicant very well has an option to put an awning in.
Looks like the building behind it on Court Street has a canvas awning, but that would cover the transom windows.
Yeah, so well, I think if they could implement a design that would, make sure that it doesn't detract from the architectural features that are there. But I think the design that's being proposed really allows for, now that they're opening the transoms up, it really they don't want to cover them back up. So I think the design that they have in place really will allow it to stay open. And yeah, just right down the street, there's a great example of a metal awning of the same style.
And I think a cloth awning on Court Street or on Second Street probably would get ripped off, or the wind is just like a tunnel going down Second Street. So I think it'd be a high likelihood of not lasting very long, and I'm not sure that would be the direction that we would want to go.
What is the consensus of SHPO on metal awnings?
I mean, I would have to look. It's like I said, I mean, SHPO relies on the city of the Dalles as a certified local government to make our findings. So it's, obviously using historic photos, to provide a basis for a decision. Also using, material that is consistent consistent for the area, consistent for the building. In the state of interiors, looking through the state of interiors findings, there isn't anything specifically that mentions metal awnings, but as far as SHPO's exact language on it, I think they would still bring it back to the city of the Dalles to make that decision.
Well, I've always seen the cloth awnings and the proprietor running out there in the rain shower trying to crank them in so they don't get tore down in the rain, and then crank them back out again so they're not rolled up tight and rot and before they get a chance to dry out and all that sort of stuff. But I just don't feel comfortable with a metal painted awning out there. I know it's gonna have to be painted, but a metal awning, I'm having problems today. I am having problems today staying within the historic guidelines that I have worked with since I've been on this commission. That's exactly what I'm saying. So, and I am only old and one of a kind here, so what more can I say? If we have no more further questions, for the proponent, for the applicant, we will close him out, and I'll ask you people if you have any further questions that you would like to ask Josh about. And if none, we will close the public hearing and deliberate amongst ourselves.
I think I have one more question for either Michael or Byron, whichever one of you two could answer this. If you did go along with a metal awning, would it be the same? Would it match the bronze aluminum that you're going to have for the bottom window frames?
Yes, yeah, we would make sure it did that.
So it'd be uniform color, style. Okay.
I will also add that when we went through our application process with SHPO and the Main Street grant that we got and the Diamonds in the Rough grant, the awning was a part of that. So it was approved having that with their team approving that based on an awning being in that application.
Thank you.
I have a question about the paint colors. Have you chose your paint colors or?
If not, we're trying to decide whether it'll be 4 colors or 5. There's so much detail on the building that we want to draw out all of the architectural features. So
Your colors, are they going back to the original, or are they with the palette of historic colors, or?
it'll be historically appropriate. Nothing flashy, nothing pink, nothing red. Try to avoid black where possible. Dust and dirt, as it sits on there, doesn't show up badly.
Over the years, we have, as a commission, kind of delegated the approval of the colors to the planner for approval, rather than meeting us together and trying to approve, well, we want that inside of that pillar to be so and so shade. And I would hope we could carry that tradition forward, because we don't meet that often, so.
Yeah, it actually is a condition of approval. The condition of approval is
It's
that,
pretty well spelled out
yeah,
what the colors will be. And I really like to see it kept down to as few people voting on what one we're gonna use, rather than have a large committee trying to figure out what shade we were gonna use. So, thank you, Michael. If we have further questions, we'll have to reopen the meeting. And thank you, Josh. And I'll wrap my little mallet here. The public hearing now is closed, and we are in deliberation of only the commission. And we'll let you talk, Julie. We'll make an exception.
I just asked questions.
So what is your findings on the way the thing is presented? You may modify this presentation to where you think we fit within the guidelines, if you need to. if I'm right in my understanding of the rules and regulations for us, we can approve or disapprove of most any segment of this application. So I'm beginning to find out, not criticizing anybody, but I was kind of short decked. I haven't found half of these streets in my pamphlet that you've been talking about.
Oh, okay. You can
But
borrow
that's all
mine.
right, it's too late now and we catch up. I'll play in the back row for a long while. So I'll turn back to the application. I think I got that marked here. And has anyone got anything further to say, or are you ready to vote, or what do you want to do?
I just kind of feel like, well, my train of thought is kind of like what Eric and I had mentioned, where if feasible, they should replace the windows, but on the bottom floor, I'm fine with them doing the aluminum bronze since that's kind of what's there right now. And since the upper floor is already wood, keep them to sticking to that. So maybe in one of our conditions, say, you know, on the bottom floor, you may have the option of bronzed aluminum, and on the upper floor, you may have the option of wood if they can't outright be replaced.
Just to keep the second floor all consistent with.
Yeah, and I mean, that's already wood right now, so no, I mean, we could give them the option of changing it to the bronzed aluminum, but in my mind, we want to keep it historic, we want to keep it to what it is, so, and we prefer wood.
Yeah, you don't want to take wood out.
Exactly.
Are you talking about the transom windows though, or the?
No, the
actual-
transom windows I'm still considering on the first floor, so I'd consider letting them, give them the option of doing the bronzed aluminum.
Yeah, and I do think it's proposed the second floor is intended to just be wood windows, fixing the wood windows that
Yeah.
are there. So
It's so cool that they've kept that original wood door. I'm
yeah,
excited to see that
Yes.
treasure.
I just didn't know if we wanted to specify in like condition number 7, that hard transition where the first floor, they have the option of bronze aluminum. I keep forgetting what it's called. And then like the second floor, they may have the option of the wood. I don't know if that's something we should add in, or if we need to be that detailed on this, or if we're okay just giving them the option outright.
yeah. So on condition 7, it is specific to the storefront and transom window systems, just that first floor.
Okay.
So yeah, in the event that you wanted to restrict,
Have you got an extra copy handy right there with the conditions of this?
Yeah, I have the resolution that has the conditions.
Oh.
It's
I
page
go
40.
frantic looking.
Yeah, it's on page
Page
40.
40.
Mr. Eggy didn't print
I got,
for me.
oh, I got that one, I think. No, I don't.
On the back side of this, I'm looking at condition 7 right here. That's what I'm.
Okay, and that's in a resolution. That's in the resolution. I don't have one for the actual.
Do you have page 40 in your packet?
What's the resolution?
Page 40. I don't know. Page 69 of 70.
You got to go way back.
Well, anyhow, we got one. Let's
Yep.
use this one. Then we're in good shape. Let's use one here. And they're the same anyhow, so it doesn't make, we're arguing over eggs. This is what I didn't even read the resolution because I just thought it'd show up on the back page of my applicant, but it didn't.
So it's number 7, right?
Yeah, that's the one I was looking at. And like Josh said, this is only kind of applicable for the first floor windows that are going to be replaced. Yeah, transom windows and possibly I think the front ones are fine, the big ones. It's just the transom windows that they're redoing.
I think the goal is, when they get into it, see what the condition of the existing aluminum storefront
Try to match
system is
everything
there.
up.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that is the ultimate goal.
And so I'm just thinking maybe we should add for the second floor, if you can't replace those windows with what's there already or repair it, whatever, then you must
and
replace it with wood.
probably not as deteriorated, but I'm wondering, we haven't talked about materials for reintroducing the old oak doors. The old doors of the oak.
I asked them and they said they were gonna replace it with wood.
I know,
Oh,
but you gotta come up with framework and
door framing there, yeah.
I'm sure the doors aren't ready to install. So he's gonna have to do something to the building to fit. It says he will rebuild that entranceway,
Mm-hmm.
so it's the way I read the operation there, that it's been covered with drywall and made
Up.
into a, and now that's gonna come out, and he's gonna have to come back with maybe the original material behind the drywall, and it's all there. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it would be framed out in wood. I can't imagine they do metal and then wood. Is that what, I'm not following.
You could have a metal door frame. It's just not as common as wood door frames.
Well, I don't think they'd have a metal door frame in the 1800s.
No, but
That's what I'm
they
saying.
plan on having wood around the doors that they.
For the new
Yeah.
entry
the
on
reopening.
Court Street. Yeah, it's they're proposing to basically match that entry with the entry that's already there on Court Street with the same materials. Am I correct on that? So yeah, the only time that we're talking about the aluminum system is just on that northern face and just for the transom windows and the door and the storefront glass window system there.
See, some of that's gonna be just a Pandora box. When you open it up, you'll have to do what you have to do to put it back together. But cause the old oak frame, I don't imagine there's anyone that remembers how they put that back together, the doors. And the transom windows are probably been glued shut so long that it's what they're gonna look like when they get them open and swingable is anybody's guess at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if they're if it looks like the windows that were provided to us on the transom window that is on the Court Street side, it looks like the openings themselves were, brick was installed into them. So there was, they were definitely, when they were boarding it up, I believe they were fully intentional, fully intending on boarding those up and closing them. So whatever they needed to do to close them up and seal them.
Do we have an idea of an old photograph? Was that main door into the Oak Hotel recessed at all?
I don't know.
The photos exist? Yeah. There's so few.
Eric, what do you know? What you can tell us?
I don't really know, to tell the truth. I'm trying to think if I've seen any old pictures of that. Maybe we'll have to go do a deeper search to see if we can find historic photos, but I don't remember seeing a historic photo specifically of the detail of the storefront. It would be great if we had one, but in the absence of one, perhaps when they're doing some of the work down there, they can answer some of those questions by seeing what's left and the ghost marks of what was taken away.
Well, one of the things that we can do reluctantly on my part is delegate this back to staff. When they open it up and they got and find these surprises, do you want to come back to us, or would you like to take the responsibility upon the staff to make the right judgment?
Well, I think in doing that, probably the easiest way would be modifying the condition that's here to basically say that the applicant may install a wood system or the aluminum system. And I think then it falls on the applicant to determine what's best. Of course, I'll be in constant communication with the applicant to determine exactly what will be submitted to us. But I think that would that would at least provide direction from the commission that we can provide to the applicant. And then staff, community development staff will oversee the project, of course. So by opening up, giving them that flexibility, I think would be, commission guidance enough.
I just don't want to stop the whole project until the thing is uncovered, because once it's uncovered, there's no way to go but go forward. And I would like to see him say go forward, but we should reach a point in there, and I don't know how to, that if there was something came up, that it might have to come back to us for a modification to what we have actually approved, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I mean the goal obviously is for the applicant to move forward and start construction as soon as they can. Because I know, like I said, this is grant funded, so there are some timelines contingent on this grant. But I think, like I said, I mean, if if I read the condition, and maybe we could see if this makes sense to the commission, following a complete assessment of existing conditions of the storefront and transom glass system on the northern face, if replacement of the system is needed, the applicant may replace the system with new wood framed windows or with a new wood frame window system, and or replace the system with a new bronze anodized system. So that's basically giving them the option on what the conditions are going to be. And I think that the important part is that opening line here is that I can't emphasize it enough. They are really hoping to restore as much as they can with this building, but there may be portions of this building that are just unrepairable. And at that point, they're looking for some options on the material that they could use. But to board member Gleason's point earlier, they currently have an aluminum system. So it would be, at least material wise, sticking with what is currently there. It's not like they are proposing to remove a wood system and replacing it with metal. That might be maybe a different conversation for the commission today.
Right, I'm waiting for, I even could do it myself, but would much rather one of you commissioners made the motion to.
Well, with a little bit of discussion, I'm completely comfortable with that recommendation with the maybe just adding a line or something that if original materials are uncovered, the applicant should try to retain as much of the original materials as possible. Maybe something like that. I don't think they'll find anything under the storefront section, but maybe the transom windows system might have original materials.
Well, reading this, finally, I got to do it to read it now. Number 6 on there, the applicant is required to notify the Community Development Department of any alterations of approved plans. And that doesn't say what they're supposed to do with it, but I don't think we're called the Community Development Department, are we? Who is that?
They're downstairs. No, that would be, they would be, any changes to these plans would need to come through our office. The community development director ultimately.
And then as far as condition 8, the awning material, I'd just like to add a condition that or state that an awning is not required if it was not historically present.
You want to add just that sentence to the existing paragraph? Okay. Yeah, I think the existing paragraph should just say the applicant may, not that they shall have to install that.
Yeah.
and give them the option of or a canvas.
Okay. So if you want to bear with me, I can read these both back and see if it makes sense. So for number 7, following a complete assessment of existing conditions of the storefront and transom glass system on the northern building face, if replacement of the system is needed, the applicant may replace the system with new wood-framed window system, or replace the system with a new bronze anodized aluminum storefront system. If original materials are uncovered during this process, applicant should try to retain original material at, I'll
Well, maybe
reword it a little bit.
Maybe wherever possible
Wherever possible. Yep.
or feasible. One of those 2 words.
If you're
Maybe.
fine with me wordsmithing it slightly, we will Chair McNary, I may coordinate with you, maybe tomorrow and later this week about coming in, and you'll be able to read these. And if the board is comfortable, Chair Member McNary will be able to read over the language that we put together here and sign on your behalf, if that works.
Good.
Okay. And then number 8 would be the applicant may install the metal awning as shown on the elevation drawing, or install a canvas cloth awning once the restoration work is completed and paint colors chosen. Check out.
I think Eric wanted to add a sentence there, like saying that it is not required though that they install it.
Okay. Would just having that open in line of the applicant may install?
I think it works.
Okay. Okay.
Somebody got to wordsmith this thing together, so we got a motion that we can see to vote on. I mean, we've got some very good ideas here, but we've got to wordsmith it into. That's why I put a blank sheet of paper in front of you, young fella.
No,
No, I think as far as let me pull something up for you, and hopefully this will be helpful.
Got to have something that makes sense to vote upon.
So this would be move to adopt HLC resolution number 202-24, a resolution approving HLC 216-24 based upon the findings of fact and conclusions of law set forth in the staff report, with modified conditions of approval following commission discussion. And I think that should cover it. And if you rely on me to make the change and rely on Chair McNary to check me over on those, I think we should be good on this.
Is that what you're wanting, or are you wanting the conditions of approval like typed out in front of you?
That we put underneath something typed out, if you understand what I'm saying. We need something spelled out pretty close to what we want. And then we got to vote on it. And if we vote on it, then we have that to work with. But we've always got to leave ourselves a loophole. In case we need to, we can open it back up.
So Josh, what I think he's saying is Caitlin used to edit the document. Yeah, kind of like on the slide itself directly with the language that we've just discussed. I don't know if you're able to do that.
Yeah.
For the conditions 7 and 8.
Yeah, I know, definitely, I can do that. It might take just a little bit here. I know, when it comes to land use side of things, this how I presented it, the resolution I presented it could work, but I am more than happy to make that change here really quick. Give me 1 second.
If it'll give you time, we can close this section of our meeting temporarily and go on to some other items on the agenda while you're wordsmithing this together. Would that help you?
Yeah. Yeah, that I think the next item on the agenda is the resolution though, so.
So get to it, Josh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get back to the front of my Bible here and We have a resolution. We aren't gonna be able to handle it until we get it. We got commissioners' comments. And so we'll start right down the line. Julie, if you got anything that's happening up there at the fort?
Few things. There have been a few hop on, hop off days from the cruise ships, but it's not nearly what it was last year, and it's not very predictable. So sometimes they show up and sometimes they don't. And we have a new staff member. She's got wonderful background in, she was graduated from the Evergreen State College in something like Native American Affairs or something. So she's got some valuable information, but she doesn't want to be considered to be the next director. And Crystal Davis Ross is going to be retiring in November. So we're on a search for a new director. And then our latest edition of the Fort Dalles Dispatch has gone out in the mail to people who are members. So if you'd like to be a member, you can get the dispatch. That's all.
I guess
You're
I'm up.
next, sir.
I have nothing to report as of right now, Bob.
Good to see you. Bev, you took a month off or 2 months off. Now you're back. Did you have a good trip? Did you do something?
A
Historic?
couple months ago, I went to Melbourne to see my new grandson. So that was pretty historic.
Okay.
But as far as like history things here, Mr. Eggy is on the board at St. Peter's, and I usually talk about his things because we go to our porch and we do little tours and things when the docents aren't in. So they have changed the little gardens in the front. We're kind of not looking as up to par because of just donated bits and pieces, and there was lots of weeds. So we got the gardener that works there. I'm just gonna blank out on his name. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He does a wonderful job. He works all around town, and he's cleared it all out. And we also had the big lights all replaced. I think I said a few months ago, someone came in and stole a bunch of our lights, and it was kind of a shocker because they're like $600 at least per light. So those are all replaced, and it's looking really good. So we're on top of it. Or I'm not, but Mr. Eggy and his crew are. I just am enjoying it from my porch as I look.
One of the things that I find so interesting about St. Peter's is the few people in town that realize that somebody had to go up and grease the rooster.
Also could spin with the wind. Is that
Right.
I didn't know that. I knew that the rooster was 6 feet tall. That's the bit of the fact that I like to tell people, because I think it's so high. It seems like it'd be shorter, but it's a 6 foot tall rooster, which really says how big our birds, our ospreys, the birds that land on it, how big they are.
But the old story the historians like to talk about is there was a caretaker, a courier, or cur, whatever they are, of the historic wasn't historic then, it was St. Peter, but they said, we can hear your rooster crawling. And that meant that you had to go up there and grease the turntable that he was on. And he said you could hear it all over town, the squeaky crow thing. And I've often marveled at that story and I have to think about it.
I'm going to use that story when I do a little tour of
Okay.
the landmark. I'll use that one.
Get your telephoto lens out.
Okay.
Take a picture of the steeple and emphasize where the little door is.
Mr. Iggy does that every time he talks.
Okay,
So
then.
there's 2 doors.
Oh, see, now there I learned something.
And I might be getting it muddled, which is totally possible, but I thought there were 2, but I know they used one when they repaired the tiles that blew off. It was quite
Okay. All right, well, nevertheless, that is you could hear that thing squeaking. Now you stop and think, it sounds kind of strange, but this town must have been fairly quiet when they didn't have a lot of, not electric cars, but cars with loud mufflers. and they didn't have the freeway traffic and so on and so forth. It was probably a fairly quiet town. And if the wind blew at 4 o'clock and the rooster had to make his rotation because the wind blew, maybe he could be heard squawking all
I wish
over
that was
town.
the only noise I heard on 4th Street was that squeak. That would be good.
So there you go. Carl, you've got historic stories that won't end. Give us a little taste of your knowledge.
Oh, my knowledge. Well, following up with what Julie said, the original courthouse did not get on the hop off tours this year at all. Trying to get them at least to stop, and if people want to get off at the Chamber of Commerce, they could walk over and see it, but we get very few visitors. So we're quite concerned about that. We had agreements with the tour boat that went under, that was not doing it this year, and not with the ones that are taking over this year. Anyways, my wife and I are going down to the State Fair. It's another historic landmark. It's the Criterion Schoolhouse. We
Yeah.
do a couple of hours as docents doing that Friday, and it's always fun to get people in. The grandparents bring their kids in and tell them what it was like in the one-room schools. Kiwanis Steak Feed, I happen to have tickets if anybody's interested.
There we go.
And I have a question for Claudia. When you do the renovation, is that trap door still going to be there that they used to escape from the room? It'll be gone. Oh, too bad. Do you know that story?
No.
Well, the hotel was used for certain purposes, and somebody had to make a quick escape because the law was pounding on the door. There was a trap door from the apartment to the mezzanine. And from there you could hop down and quickly get out of the place so that you weren't taken right across the street to the jail. So
It'd be cool to leave it.
Yeah, that'd be a good.
yeah.
Well, this is the beautiful part of this meetings is getting these people to remember things and tell each other about what little we do remember on history. Josh, are you up to date? Can you
Yeah.
give us the word or?
Real quick, you skipped Eric and
Oh,
Scott up there.
I forgot my wall people. Okay, Eric.
Well, you could have forgot me because I don't really have much to add.
Just make something up, Eric.
Yeah.
Scott, you've been very
Yes.
patient with us tonight. We've been a little disorganized down there.
Oh, it's all good. I'm just sorry I couldn't be there in person. Couldn't make it today, but I was able to listen in and yeah, it's kind of exciting to see what's going on with that Siemens building. It is a beautiful building.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you, Scott.
Okay.
So have some conditions for you. So with your motion, are you intending on moving to adopt this and then you want to list off the different motions or the different conditions? Is that how you'd like to do this?
What? What?
Or just
Hey,
for
what I
tonight.
was hoping he was gonna give us something on the wall that we could all read.
Yeah, like I can do that here.
And I kept looking and he was kept looking, so I figured he was still puzzling at it. There we go. We got something there.
So this is the modified condition for number 7. I'm not sure if you're wanting to read this into your entire motion as well as number 8, but as I mentioned, the motion that I had up on the screen would suffice to make this change in here. But if you'd all like to see, I think this is what it's going to look like. Following a complete assessment of existing conditions of the storefront and transom glass system on the northern building face, if replacement of the system is needed, the applicant may replace the system with a new wood-framed window system, glass and frame, or replace the system with a new bronze anodized aluminum storefront system, glass and frame. If original materials are uncovered during restoration, the applicant should strive to retain all original materials whenever possible. That's number 7, the modified number 7. This would be the modified number 8. The applicant may install the metal awning as shown on the elevation drawing or install a canvas cloth awning once the restoration work is completed and the paint colors are chosen. So those are the changes that are made that I will make on a modified resolution. And going back to, this would be a motion that could be made for us to move forward with adopting the resolution.
Josh?
Yeah.
Okay, now we're gonna approve a motion. We're gonna include these 5.
Yes, yes. But we have modified conditions, so we just say the modified conditions of approval.
Right, okay. A motion.
I move we adopt the conditions of approval
As modified?
as modified.
There we go. Carl, get right with it.
Thank you. I second that.
Yeah.
Carl looking to
You-
bed.
You kind of hold out on it.
Suspense. I was trying to. Exciting.
Okay. The application 216-24 has been approved.
We have to vote on it.
With the modifications. All in, been approved verbally. All right, all in favor of us, raise their right hand. And we don't have a tally keeper, but I guess you're the tally keeper now. Opposed? None, so the motion application is approved. Now we jump down to item number 8, which is resolution 202-24. And we need a motion to approve this resolution with the same modification.
I'll move to adopt the HLC resolution number 202-24, a resolution approving HLC 216-24, based upon the findings of facts and conclusions of law set forth in the staff report with the modified conditions of approval following commission discussion.
Well done.
I second that.
Bev, you're gonna get faster, you're.
I thought I was hogging all the seconds. I was waiting for someone else to
Thought that
jump
was-
in.
Good job.
Any further discussion on approving your resolution? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. Anyone that isn't in favor, don't tell me about it. Is there any further business? Thank you, by the way, and Godspeed on trying to get that project put together. I am looking forward to it. It is a beautiful old building, and save it if you can. And I was so glad. We have always had, since I've been on this commission, you changed your condition for us. We've always had what are they gonna do with the project when we're done resolving it? Because we only look at the outside fixture. We don't look at what happened behind the wall. And so you give us a clue when you said they're gonna put 4 units up on top. We would have never known that unless and then the applicant could have told us, or he didn't have to tell us, but now we know. So it's good to know these things, because we've got to know why we're doing what we're doing. And that's about the end of my minute. Now, you got an adjournment, we got not adjournment, a new date? It wasn't on there, but when's the new date?
New date.
To
For
meet.
the next meeting.
Oh, it's going to be dependent on, well, we'll meet before the end of the year. There are no applications in at this time. There is an individual that we've been chatting with recently of replacing a dilapidated, basically demoing a dilapidated garage on their property. I'd have to get the address for you. It's not off the top of my head. But it is a historic property, so therefore the garage itself would have to come in front of the HLC. So, there's that. A couple other updates. I know that the Bonds Printing is planning on refinishing or repainting the mural that they have. If you've been by the Bonds Printing mural, they had some years past. They added these these projections to make it look more like 3D office furniture, but they've really deteriorated. And the hope is that they will be removing those and returning the the sign back to what it was many, many years ago. So it was actually that mural has been there for a very long time, and they're trying to go back to what it was. So this is kind of like, I want to say what's currently out there is maybe like the second or third version from the pictures that they provided to us, and they're kind of going back to that original version of what it was. It's still very similar. I mean, there is you just, without comparing pictures, you might have a difficult time seeing what the changes are, but I think I think the word office supply is going to be going back to what it was originally. So I think that is really the biggest change to it. So of that mural, maybe 90% of it will be what it what it is now compared to what it was. So that'll be happening in the next few months. And then also I think I updated the board in June. We finally have moved forward with signing a contract with a local archaeologist out of Hood River that will be assisting us with archaeological services for the First Street the First Street parking lot repaving project. I think I mentioned at that last meeting that our goal was to restripe 2 parking lots along First Street. And it just in the abundance of caution, we reached out to SHPO, and we've been in communication with SHPO, and that is a very sensitive archaeological site. So the fear was, and I think I think it's worth it to take this closer look at it. But the fear was that when we went to restripe it, we found that the condition of the asphalt was in such bad shape that we couldn't just restripe it; it'd be a waste of our money. So we are needing to peel up the asphalt that's there and put new asphalt down. But the fear is that the equipment that would be used, there's a potential that it could go down far enough and hit some artifacts. So we will actually have, when our public works team is repaving those parking lots, we will actually have an archaeologist on staff to monitor it. But we will be submitting here next week. I think it's not going to happen this week, but I think next week we will be submitting our consultant will be submitting a formal application to SHPO. So it'll be like a 30-day review on their end. I've been working very closely with SHPO on it, so I know exactly what they're looking for now. It's been ironed out a little bit over a couple weeks back and forth. But yeah, ultimately, it's not a very exciting project. It's just a new restriping of some resurfacing of some parking lots, but we are going through the process to make sure that the SHPO is aware of it, and we're checking all those boxes. And that is about it for me right now. And I'm more than happy to answer questions.
Do we have to give notice to any concerned parties when we're doing that? Like Mr. Wolf was very concerned about that situation. I just don't know, do citizens that maybe have a tie in that or that are nearby get a notice of what's going on?
SHPO has noticing requirements. And we will follow those. We follow the tribes for one. We notify the tribes. There is a list of individuals that we notify, but as far as property owners and we won't be notifying it. It's really the resurfacing of a parking lot. I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody about it. I know there was some concerns originally from a resident about how it was going to drain, but our public works team is going to, make sure that it will be draining to the drain that's already in the alley itself. So yeah, other than that, it's like I said, it's not an extremely exciting project, but at the end of the day, it'll be nice because those have been some really deteriorating parking lots and rather scary for a couple years. I think I've heard people say. So when it's all said and done and they're restriped, there'll be about 55 brand new parking spaces down there for any local businesses to use free of charge.
Wonderful.
Okay, entertain the motion to adjourn if anyone wanted to do it, otherwise we're all gonna go home.
I'll
I
make a
don't care if
motion.
we go home, but we're gonna leave here.
I'll make a motion for adjournment.
We are adjourned.
You didn't second it.
Well, he hit the hammer, so I didn't need to.
Thanks, Josh, for all your help.
Freaking
I'm-
not waiting for me anymore.
I'm gonna look around and see if I can't find another second. You're pretty slow.
Oh, no.
She's fine.
Give her a second.
She always shows up. I can't vote.
Give her a second and she'll second it.
There, that's a
I
thought.
second it.
Thanks. Good seeing all you guys.
Good seeing you, Eric.
Hello there. Wonder who was sneaking in here on it.
Thanks for reading.
I tried to read fast. You know, I read along.
All right, up your proceedings, but I gotta get to my office here.
I appreciate it.
Don't look for me to jump very high, Dan.
I have to shock everyone and make a motion one of these days.
Yeah. And I can't stand it. So Roger really, really wants to go to Australia.
That's not mine. I'll leave that one.
In terms of telling him how,
Have a banner or something.
that is a long, long.
It's a bloody long way.
Well,